This is another one of those episodes that was recorded about 2 years ago. It's exciting retrieving all this data and all these episodes. The guest we have in this episode is going to be Marcello Cantu. He does drop shipping by Amazon, drop shipping with Walmart as well. They made $35 million in the space of 4 years in sales with drop shipping as well. So obviously it's 2 years since then, so the price is slightly higher, but I'm only going to go off the data and the information that we've accumulated since then. Enjoy the show. I'll add any other details in the description section should there be anything else as well regarding this episode. This is Marcello. This is all about FBA. This is about like Walmart drop shipping and just how you can end up like utilizing the tools and maximizing your profits. On today's podcast interview of Code to Winning, insights you'll need today in order for you to seize the world tomorrow, we actually have a person who's very experienced, 4 years in Amazon FBA and Walmart WFS in terms of drop shipping. This company has actually generated about $35 million in sales in the past 4 years. So our special guest today, Marcello Cantu. How you doing,
Hey man,
brother?
thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a bit more about Marcello? Who is Marcello? How did you come about starting or getting into the field of FBA?
Yeah man, to be honest, I'm just a regular guy. So I grew up in Dallas, Texas, born and raised. I was raised in a single parent household, just with my father. Faced a lot of adversity growing up. Being younger, as a man, I don't stand that tall. So I've always been the smallest kid in all my entire education from, preschool to high school. So I got bullied a bit, and then I got into boxing a little bit. That gave me some confidence. And then around the age of 15, got my first job bagging groceries at Albertsons. I was pretty hungry. I realized like not having money and being poor, having to ride the bus, public bus for transportation and stuff. It sucked. I didn't like it. So I had my first job when I was 15, bagging groceries. Then I got a job at McDonald's when I was 16. From that time too, I was very antisocial growing up, had a lot of anxiety. I didn't have too many friends and have no siblings, so just myself. And at 17, I really wanted to get just out of just away from the city, do something different. So I graduated high school early at 17.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at 17, kind of got a lucky break. It was just by transferring schools and doing to the credits being a certain way. That's why I was able to graduate early. But I graduated early at 17. Then I thought, what do I do now? I was like, I want to get away from, the environment I was in the city. So I went into the Air Force. I had my diploma. Both my parents signed a waiver. I went in at 17. Went to Lackland Air Force Base.
Where was it based?
In San Antonio, Texas. So I went there for basic training and stuff, but long story short, I was only there for 8 months. I had an attitude problem, and I fortunately got really lucky. I got a general discharge, so it's not honorable or dishonorable. It's like impartial. It's like I wasn't there. So that happened. I went back home. At 19, enrolled in community college, and then I was in college for about 5 years, around 24-ish. Graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas. Did my undergraduate in marketing. At that time, I did a little traveling. I wanted to move outside of Texas. I went to a few cities. LA was one of them. I went to LA. I really liked how open-minded people were, and people more had a mindset of abundance versus the opposite in Texas. When I tell people I wanted to be self-employed and stuff, people are like, just go to college, be realistic, don't be dumb, you're not going to be a millionaire one day. And when I went to LA, I noticed there was a lot of younger people that seemed to be living life to the fullest and stuff. Some, more just perception, but some definitely legit too. So that really captivated me, and I thought, you know what, before getting into a job or career with my degree, being 24, why not just save up some money and move to LA? So that's what I did. Moved to LA, had fun about at the age of 24 for about like 4 months before I was like, okay, now I need to like figure stuff out. What am I gonna do? And I went to a couple job interviews. I landed a job. I didn't accept it though, and I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna make money however I can, which ended up being Ubering. And then,
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Were you Ubering in Texas?
no, in LA. So,
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you did say LA.
yeah, in LA. So I Ubered in LA for about, I was working sometimes like 40, 50 hours a week. And then I'd spend another like 20, 30 hours on different side businesses trying to get them started. So originally, the first side business I tried to start was selling and installing ATMs into like dispensaries. So I saw an ad online from some younger successful people about how to, sell ATMs and then make it into a passive income business and stuff.
Do you know Paul Espinoza?
This sounds familiar.
Okay, yeah. He's one of the guys who does ATM and stuff. You did that for starters for passive income?
Yeah,
Was that profitable for you?
So when I started I had 2 locations. I got 2 ATMs. It took me literally like 5 months to get my first 2 locations. But the way it works out with that is, you get the machine, you find a cash dependable business where people need cash, and you make money off of the difference or the fees that are charged. And then as a ATM owner, you just got to go there and fill it up every maybe 2 weeks or once a month. Not that much effort, just with, cash. And so at these dispensaries I was at, I was making, one of them did like $700 a month, the other one did around like 1,200, which wasn't bad for just having to go, like once or twice to fill it up. But then about 4 months into that, one of the locations got closed because he didn't have his license, which I just took his word for it or assumed that he had it. So what ended up happening was the police at that time, they came, they took all his inventory, and they also took the ATM. But I was able to, prove that I owned it and get access to that back and the cash in it. So after that had happened, I had got a little discouraged from trying to continue to grow that business. So then I thought, hey, what else can I do now? And how I learned about that opportunity was through a course, and I made my money back. The course was like $500. So the guy that I bought that course from, he had a roommate who was selling on Amazon a lot. His name's Bunt, and he goes, it's Jeffrey, but on Instagram his name it's Bunt Bunt. And he portrayed this crazy lifestyle and major success at a young age. I think he was like early 20s. And so I thought, hey, I made my money back with this course about selling on, or not selling with, ATM. So I thought, let me buy this other guy's course who's his roommate about selling on Amazon. I'll probably at least make my money. So I did that. I bought that course, and literally within the first 2 weeks, I did about $15,000 in sales. It was strictly dropshipping, online arbitrage. So selling on Amazon's marketplace as a third-party seller, doing fulfillment by merchant, or you're just fulfilling your own orders. And then I was utilizing retailers like Home Depot, Home Depot and Walmart as a supplier. So pretty much just drop shipping. Someone on Amazon would buy it, and then when the product was purchased, I would then go to Walmart.com or HomeDepot.com, buy the item, ship it to the Amazon customer, and then they would get the same item except, from these other retailers. So I did that in the first 2 weeks. I did about $12,000 in sales. So I thought, oh, you know what? Like this works. I think I made off of that. My profit was like 8 or 9%. So I made like $800 or $900. But it worked, and everything that they had showed me in the course and stuff, it really clicked. It made sense. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna apply myself for 1 year religiously to this before doing anything else. So I kept Ubering. And over the course of a year, I went from Ubering, 50 hours a week or so and doing like 20 hours a week on Amazon to, doing 20 hours a week Uber and then 40 hours Amazon to then, not Ubering at all, just doing full-time Amazon. So that was my first breakthrough with becoming truly like, self-employed and, owning like a small business. And then when my major breakthrough was I kind of hit a plateau, and I started asking people for advice, like, hey, how can I learn of different opportunities, or how to get better optimizing this business model? And everybody was like, find a mentor, go work with some other people that are already at the higher level than
Exactly.
you.
100%.
Yeah, and so then I went to my first networking event. No, actually, what happened was, so the people I bought the course from, they invited me. They said, "Hey, a few people have done X amount of sales. We're inviting you to come to our office."
How much was the course? 500 bucks,
At
you
that
said.
time, the ATM course was $500. The Amazon course, it was more. I think it was like 800 or 900.
And that was in 2019 or before then?
This was beginning of 2019. Yeah, but well worth it. So they invited me to do a case study about me, or a testimonial, at their office, which was in Newport Beach. And I remember this was like literally an hour and a half or 2 hour drive with traffic from Koreatown in LA, where I lived. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'm not going to go, it's such a long drive. But then I said, why not? Let me go. And so I went, and I went to that one event, and there was only like 5 people there. And one of the people there was an 18-year-old named Andy Kong, who would later become my business partner. But because of going to that event, or that, yeah, that because of going to that event, I met him, and then we later become partners and start selling on Amazon together. And then from that time, we started working together. We opened a few accounts on Amazon together. Within 5 months, we scaled one store to doing up to $130,000 a month in sales. And then I went to another.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, I know. It is. It's crazy. And again, at this time, anything you do at all is always going to be competitive at any time. In any industry or whatever you're doing. It's just about being able to really, apply yourself and make the most of it and be consistent. But Andy was pretty far ahead of me, and that was the key. So when I met up with him, I really absorbed all the great things and things he was doing that was making him successful in Amazon. When we came together, it just really added more fuel to the fire, and then I met other people who ended up coming along the journey, and yeah, and then we formed Project Wi-Fi. So I went to my second networking event, which was a mastermind.
Where was that? Where was that held?
That was in Pasadena, California. So
And at the
only
time, was Project Wi-Fi, had it started already?
no, it hadn't. So I went to this event because there was another Amazon seller that was hosting it, and I had no intention of working with anybody. I just thought, you know what? I went to this event and met Andy. Why not I go to this event too? Who knows who I might meet or what may happen? So I went, and out of all the people there, I actually had the most experience, or just the most sales selling on Amazon, and I found myself answering a lot of people's questions and helping a lot of people. And the host of the event noticed that, so I introduced myself and I told him at this time, hey, me and Andy, also sell on Amazon. We're setting these goals to hit. 4 months later, he saw that we hit those goals. I was posting on my IG stories.
Yeah.
And then he thought, you know what? I've been thinking of starting an agency. Maybe we could all do it together. And I thought, okay, let me get Andy and see what if we want to do this.
Money.
Yeah, so we show up and we decide, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Let's create an agency. So literally, we did it. Me and Andy had the operations down. He had the social media and marketing aspect down. He'd already sold and promoted e-commerce services before. So, and this was right at the end of 2019. So we literally, so Project Wi-Fi is an e-commerce management company.
Okay.
So what we do is we find everyday, people that have careers or businesses and they don't have time to allocate towards starting a business doing e-commerce.
Exactly.
And then we come in and pretty much help them get approved on a specific marketplace. And then we do everything from them from, start to finish to get them set up. And then we also pretty much run the entire business for them. All they have to do is put up working capital for inventory.
I like that. And then, but you guys take a split, right? What's the commission? Does it depend on the amount of money you put up front, or how does that work in terms of the split?
Yeah, so Over the years, we've had a couple different business models. Currently, the current one we're operating right now is selling wholesale on Amazon through FBA,
Okay.
fulfillment by Amazon, and then also on Walmart through WFS, which is for Walmart Fulfillment
So
Services.
they differ.
They are. It's the exact same business model. It's just different marketplaces.
Okay.
So with Amazon FBA, you are sending in inventory, you're purchasing wholesale inventory, sending it into Amazon's warehouse, and then they're picking, prepping, and packing it, and taking care of the order fulfillment, the customer service, the shipping.
Yes.
With Walmart, you're doing the exact same thing, getting wholesale inventory, but you're sending it into Walmart's warehouse for them to fulfill and sell on their marketplace. We have 3 tiers we offer. The first tier is going to come in at 29K, actually at a 50-50 split, where
Okay.
their clients retain 50% and then we get 50%. And then the second tier is going to be at 35K with a 65-35% split.
Okay.
And then there's a third tier at 45K with an 80-20 split, where the clients retain 80% of their profit and then we get 20%. With that third tier, the 45K, we throw in a free 0% business funding round.
All right.
So a lot of people we work with have good credit, but they don't utilize it. A lot of people don't know that there's a difference between, good debt and bad debt.
Exactly.
So what we do is, for clients that go with a tier 3 option, we help them get business funding with 0% business credit cards. And then we're able to then use those credit cards as working capital to purchase inventory from different suppliers and vendors, and then use that, to sell on their online storefronts.
Then my follow-up question on that, what would you guys determine is good credit? Because it depends on whether you're getting an auto loan, home loan and stuff. What would be a good credit? Is it like a 650 credit score, a 600 credit score?
Yeah, so for business credit, I would consider a good credit score to be anything above, I would say 720 typically, with no derogatory marks, anything like of that nature. So that's good. And then having any previous history, whether it's existing credit cards, you could have mortgage, auto loans, or anything like that. That pretty much will qualify you for anywhere from around 20 to 30K, I'd say, in new credit lines.
Okay. And then how would that work? They get credit. Do you guys deal with their entire funding? They just give it to you upfront, or is it on a variety of different credit cards? How would that work? If they have the actual cash, do they have to have it on a credit card?
Yeah, so for the upfront fee, we take primarily clients can pay with cards or, in the form of just, cash or wire. But for the working capital, we prefer people to have cash, to be liquid. But let's say, so to start off, we require people to have a minimum of 20K in working capital. It's ideally that they have up to 50 and 60K, because when you start a store selling on, whether it's Amazon or Walmart, what's going to happen is you have to first, show Amazon or Walmart that you're going to be a good seller. You're going to do everything correctly. You're going to make sure that stuff is shipped out on time. You're going to make sure that you're replying to customers' messages in a timely manner. You're getting good reviews. The inventory you're sending in has a high turnover. It's not just sitting in their warehouse, not helping them make money, because when stuff sells on Walmart or Amazon, they're making a fulfillment fee. That's how they're making their money.
Okay. But then with that 29,000, if I were to come to you and say 29,000, is that like my money still, right? But that you're working with, or is it is there like another additional fee that would have to end up like paying and saying, hey, here's my store? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's just an upfront management fee. So what that fee goes towards, it goes towards, the company Project Wi-Fi. And then as that fee, what you get in exchange is you get access to our team, our experience, our infrastructure, all our systems we use on the back end. You get access to all that, and then we help you get approved to sell on the marketplace. And then,
Maybe you mentioned that earlier on. So fine, I'm going to come there, 29,000. Let's just set up the whole cost. What would the minimum requirement be to start in the Amazon or like the Walmart? Is there like a minimum that you'd need for those credit cards?
Yeah, so the minimum we require is 20K in working capital, whether it's in the form of, credit lines or just cash, or maybe it's a split, maybe it's 10K in credit lines, 10K in cash. But during the beginning of the store, that's going to be good for maybe the first 4 months. And then if you really want to turn things up, it's more ideal if you have like 40 to 50 on the high end.
Okay. I know people, our generation is very accustomed to instant gratification. They always just want instant results, imminent and immediately as well. I know it's a case by case situation. How do you, what's the turnaround? Like, when are people going to get like their return on investment when they do like an Amazon or Walmart?
Yeah, so first, to be very specific, there's a few different models you can, participate and sell on Amazon or Walmart. So for example, you have wholesaling, you have online arbitrage, which is drop shipping.
That's one I'm most accustomed to and acquainted to as well, yeah.
You've got retail arbitrage. That's where you go to like somewhere like Marshall's. You get it at a discount, and then you go and you physically ship it in to Amazon, and then you sell it, at a higher price. So you got that. Then you've also got private label, where you find something that sells actively, but you're gonna buy it super cheap from China. It comes here, but then you're gonna slap your brand or label on it to make it unique or different. Or maybe you're gonna actually throw in, let's say you buy a blow dryer, maybe you're gonna throw in like a comb or something to make your listing different. So there's those four different business models. What we do is wholesaling. So we find vendors that are reputable and that we can get quality brand items from, and then we buy them at a large quantity to get discounts, and then we sell them on stores that have good metrics, good reviews, good history, that can get the buy box or get the sale over competition. So for that business model, if you have the upfront fee, let's say you have on the aggressive end, let's say you have 50K in credit lines, you can achieve your return in about 18 months. That's conservative. It could be faster. It could be 12, 14 months, but on a very conservative end, I tell people like 18 months.
Okay, I like that a lot. One of the things you touched on, which I found admirable, is that sometimes when people want to start something, they often quit their primary source of income. Like when you did Uber, you end up like identifying an ATM as well. So you end up like making that transition rather smooth, knowing that there's something still coming in. But in your situation with this, you guys are actually identifying and you are doing the FBA for the clients. You're doing the wholesalers, you're doing the Amazon, you're doing the Walmart. Is that what you guys are doing for the clients, right?
Yeah, so for the client, we're literally getting them approved to sell on the marketplace. For Amazon, it takes about 6 to 8 week process. All you have to have is an entity.
Which one's better, Amazon or Walmart?
In what aspect?
For
So I'll just give
products, like just in general, like if you were to take
I'll
all
give you
those.
some pros and cons. So for Amazon FBA, you have a larger customer base, you have a lot of traffic, but you have stricter fees, stricter policies and regulations. So even if you have a great item, you have to be what they call as ungated or qualified to sell that item. Just because you have a great item that sells all the time on Amazon and you have it at a cheap price, so you can sell it at a nice price, Amazon still may not let you sell that. You have to be ungated or approved by Amazon to sell that. And to do that, you have to have accounts that has a positive history of selling, has good reviews, stuff like that. Whereas on Walmart, they're not that strict. It's easier to sell products that may be gated on Amazon, whereas on Walmart they're not. So there's that. And then on Walmart, you don't have as much of a larger customer base. Amazon's market share, I'd say, of customers is probably like 8 times bigger, 9 times bigger. It's a lot bigger than Walmart. Amazon owns, I think, 50% of the market share online right now in North America, whereas Walmart, I would say, has, I think, like, I think it's 8 or 10%. It's not too high. So with Walmart, you have less of a customer base, but you also have less competition. So that's one thing. And on Amazon, you have larger customer base, but more competition. So
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah, but say getting started, Amazon FBA is better because again, they have a larger customer base. You can get approved in about 6 to 8 weeks. On Walmart, they're really, really, really picky with who they let sell. So Walmart's looking for people that are qualified. They've already been selling on online for a bit. So with Walmart, it can take typically around, we tell people about 2 to 3 months to get approved, but there's a whole process. So for Walmart, they want you to have a professional wholesale website. They want you to have listings and products with real SKU numbers of the inventory you're already going to
Wow,
sell.
they're so strict.
Yeah, they want to see you've had previous history of selling, whether it's on Amazon, it's on Shopify, or it's direct to consumer through your own personal website. They want to see that. They want to see your sales history. Um, yeah. So, and then when you apply in Walmart, I'd say only about 80-70% of people get approved the first time around. So when you apply, you can appeal that decision or start a second application, but it's much, much harder to get approved on Walmart.
And then I'm glad you touched on that. One of the things I wanted to talk about, I know I've heard people complain saying that their stores are being shut down. How common is that, and what would you do in a situation if you have a client that is invested in that, like, and then their store shuts down? Like,
Yeah.
what are the steps? What's the first thing we do?
Yeah, so it's actually very common with certain business models. So, for example, for doing online arbitrage, dropshipping, which is what I tell people, it's high reward, but it's also high risk. So it's a very volatile business. So um, most stores, even if you're doing everything amazing and great, you're getting your tracking handled, situated right, you're getting orders fulfilled on time, you're responding to customers' messages on time, um, you're doing all your returns on time and everything. You can still get shut down just for the fact from the customer contacting the marketplace, like say Walmart, for example, and saying, "Hey, I didn't receive a package from Walmart. I received a package from, a different retailer." So when that happens, Walmart can then close your account, and then what they do is they close your account, they hold onto your funds up to 180 days.
Whoa.
Yeah. So what you then can do is the first thing is um, you can appeal the decision, try to contact Walmart, say, hey, can you reinstate my account? If not, then you can ask them to try to release your funds sooner. And so then that happens. And then the next step of action would be to decide, hey, if you want to still continue doing that business model, which would be then doing another application to get another storefront open. But the issue with that is
What happens to the funds, though?
yeah, so the first thing is that it's most likely going to happen again. And then the second thing is, the funds, you just pretty much have to wait until, the longest it takes is 180 days. Some people I've seen in some cases have funds released as early as 2 months or so. But yeah, so that's why recently, the past 4 or 5 months, we've been selling specifically services that are just in regards to wholesaling. So for wholesaling, you can still get your store closed down if you're not, if you're not doing right by customers and stuff. If you're not operating like uh, a legit business, or if you're doing things that are negligent, like you're not you're not fulfilling orders, sending them out on time, you're not doing your returns, you're sending out fake merchandise, or like infringement or something. Maybe you're selling something you don't have permission to. Maybe you're getting a lot of bad reviews and you're not, working on showing the marketplace how you're going to fix that. You can still get shut down, but if you're doing everything right, it's pretty avoidable to get a store closed.
And so if I was hypothetically like a client, and we invested that money, like my family, my wife and I, and it happened to, like, we had an Amazon with Project Wi-Fi, and it happened to be shut down without us doing anything. What happens? What do you guys compensate the clients, or how does that work?
Yeah, so in that case, again, we tell the clients, hey, if you want to continue selling on this business model, you can then open up the store. That's the contractual agreement. This actually occurred early summer of 2020. So on Amazon, we had some stores that were getting suspended here and there, and then also some accounts that were just, they were producing $1,000 or $1,500 a month. Still something decent, but not something that clients were making happy with. So we started selling on Walmart. We looked into that. This is at a time when nobody was selling. I found somebody who's doing $100,000 a month in sales on Walmart, summer of 2020.
100,000, 6 figures,
Yeah,
a month.
Yeah, and this is before anybody was selling on Walmart. Nobody knew as a third-party seller selling on Walmart like what that was. So I found this guy, I paid him 10K, showed my CEO, Andy, everything that he was doing. And then we did that for about 3 to 4 months as far as some testing and, building a whole like team around that business model. And then October, November, we went full mode and launched. And out the gate, it was pretty crazy. We had accounts doing anywhere from literally $4,000 to $8,000 a month in profit out the gate, first month.
How much percentage was that though?
So sales typically were averaging, I think, anywhere from like 30 to up to like 80,000 a month in sales. So the profit, I would say, it was like the margins were around like 28, 25%. So when this happened, we had clients that were selling on Amazon, and what we did is, we didn't forget about some of those people. We literally converted them all over to Walmart at no additional cost or anything. Even for some of the clients that had already made their money back, we converted them over to that business model, and we had some clients that did pretty good with that.
That's money. That is absolute money. The reason I say that, we first looked into that personally for us. We looked at many YouTube videos, and there's so many like miscellaneous stuff that aren't mentioned, like trying to get like not just a store, but also try and get what do they call it, a
Virtual assistants.
virtual assistant, and also having like a warehouse, all this kind of stuff. So I feel like having that kind of funding in advance and a team doing that, it kind of creates that trajectory for you to actually achieve and maximize as much profit as possible, right?
Yeah, having a
Because
team
there's a lot of
is,
stuff behind the doors that nobody knows of. Because I mean, you just invest there, but you don't know the stuff that happens behind closed doors.
yeah. So with our company, the thing is our team. We have a pretty strong team. We all work together very well, and that's the biggest difference with Project Wi-Fi. So even when we're selling on Walmart as dropshippers, I think for the first year, we had 2 accounts that got suspended, and one of them we got reinstated pretty quickly. And a lot of the other people I knew in the space were getting, I'd say like 20, 30% of their store suspended, a good amount. So I believe at that time we were literally like #1 in the space at that time for drop shipping on Walmart. But as I mentioned earlier, things have changed. The business model is different because of adjustments on terms and conditions for Walmart's marketplace. So now we've pivoted to wholesaling on Walmart, wholesaling on FBA, which is going. It's good. It's not like drop shipping is high risk, high reward, whereas wholesaling with FBA and WFS, it's more it's a low reward, but it's pretty low risk.
So it's more conservative in a way,
Yeah,
but
with
almost like a safe and steady option rather than just
yeah,
going for like.
the only downside with wholesaling is you buy this inventory, you list it on the marketplace. Maybe you don't sell all your inventory within 2 or 3 months, and then you have remaining inventory that is just sitting there racking up fees, and then you want to either, lower the price or just liquidate it and get rid of it at maybe like a small loss. So that's pretty much the worst thing that can happen. But if you do your research ahead of time, that should happen a lot less than often.
Wow. I know you have to head to an appointment right now. I wanted to just ask like one last question as well. Before then, how does your system identify the right products that are going to maximize as much profit for like the clients that you guys are working with?
Yeah, so there's lots of third-party tools that are integrated with Amazon's API, Walmart's API, where pretty much they go in through the back end and they get access to all this data, and they're able to find these items that have sold, show information to how often these products have sold, what parts of the region or world they've sold to, what price they sold at, all that information. And so you just pretty much create that information. You find the products. When you find the products, you then have to kind of reverse engineer and find suppliers, vendors, distributors that will give you access to, buying those products at cheaper prices. Because when you get started, the hardest thing is finding vendors and stuff that are either they're going to sell to you. If you're coming to them, you're just like, hey, I want to buy $10,000 of pallets right now or something. And if they have customers that are buying 500,000 or so of, pallets inventory, they're not even going to entertain, your offer, especially if the other person buying 500,000 of pallets is selling on the same marketplace on Amazon. Some of them have
Powerful.
exclusive selling rights. So that's one of the harder things and things we offer too, is we already have those existing relationships. From the time we drop shipped on Amazon and Walmart, we have a lot of data over tens of thousands of products that we've sold, and we know that, sell at certain times of the season, and we know who the suppliers are, and we've built those relationships. So that's another thing that, clients that start with us, they get access to.
That's powerful. One last question I have for you. What makes a successful entrepreneur? You guys, literally, you and Andy, from the get-go, it's just been an upward trajectory. You've been, winning, which is pretty much our podcast code to winning. What
Yeah,
makes you guys successful?
man. I would really say it's having a burning desire. It's having that, being hungry, taking massive action, being consistent, wanting to grow, being able to grow. A lot of people, they're not willing to do anything they're uncomfortable with. You're never going to grow if you stay in your comfort zone. So I would say it's just being able to get out your comfort zone, take massive action, and don't quit. Because a lot of people don't realize that entrepreneurs usually fail a lot before they succeed. Like, in order to succeed, you have to fail. So a lot of entrepreneurs like myself, like when I was Ubering, I failed, I want to say four times or so before I started selling on Amazon. And like, even when I started selling on Amazon, I was making money, but I wasn't making money that I could live on until 8 or 10 months or so, solely just from Amazon. So those are the things I would say that are key to being an entrepreneur. Another one is also being able to adapt, realizing when you're doing something and it's not working, you need to do something different, is recognizing the time to adapt or make a pivot or change too.
Powerful. Oh, Marcello, thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, Code to Winning. Before we conclude, where can our guests or where can our viewers actually end up getting in contact with you? Social media,
Oh, for sure,
and
yeah.
YouTube and
So
so
we've
forth.
got so much social media and so much social proof online. I've done a good job at that over the years, getting dozens and dozens and dozens of client testimonials. So we have on Instagram, you can go to Project Wi-Fi, at Project Wi-Fi. Myself is at Marcello Cantu. My other business partners at Andy Kong, at Joey Frazier. And then also I'm on YouTube as well, at Marcello Cantu, TikTok at Marcello Cantu. And then also projectwifi.io. That's our website.
100%. Thank you again, boss. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.